Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. A while back, Google released a library called LiteRT-LM. So basically, LiteRT-LM is a library that allows you to run LLMs locally on your mobile device. So for example, mobile phones or embedded systems. This is great for use cases where you want to build local AI assistants or you want to do inference using large language models locally on your device. I tested this over the weekend and I would like to say that it's a really nice library. However, as it stands currently, LiteRT-LM is only available as a Kotlin or a Java-based library. However, since we're going to be using Expo, in this video, I'm going to show you guys how you can run LiteRT-LM on Expo. So let's now talk about what we're going to build in this project. So for my app here, I would want the user to select the model. So for example, here I select my model, which we're going to cover later on in this video. And then the user can interact with their model via text message. So here, for example, I can ask it, what is the sum of 2 and 3? And then if I submit, it should give me an answer like so. Furthermore, this app can also allow the model to interact with the device. So for example, here, if I say open the settings app like so, and if I submit, I would expect the settings app to open. So if I submit like so, and yeah, the settings app is now open. So basically, this is the project that we're going to build. So all in all, today we're going to build an app that allows you to run large language models locally on your device. So let's get started. Okay, let's first start with setting up the project. So here I go npx create -expo-app add latest and then the name of my app. So here I go LiteRT-tutorial and then I press enter and then we wait for a bit. Now that my project has been built, I will navigate to my project. So cd LiteRT-tutorial. Let me clear it for a blank space. Since LiteRT is a Kotlin library, I will have to build a native module. So here I copy this command from the documentation. By the way, if you don't know about native modules, I'll link a video that I did in the description below. So anyways, so create Expo module. And then here I go expo-lite-module-local. So I want a local module. And then I go enter. So it will ask the name of my module, which is Expo Lite module, which is fine for me. And then the native module name, this looks fine as well. Android package name, okay. And now we wait for a bit. All right, so now that my module has been built, there's still some additional setup steps that we need to do. So for example, the model that we're going to be using is this one, the FunctionGemma 270 million parameter model. Furthermore, it's important to know that our model should be in LiteRT-LM format. If you don't know about FunctionGemma, I made a video about it and I'll link it in the description. Anyways, this is the model that we need. You can download it and then when it's downloaded, you can transfer it to your phone. Before recording this video, I've already downloaded the mobile actions LiteRT-LM file. Anyways, we're now done with the setup. Let's now head to VS Code and write some code for our project. Okay, so here we are in VS Code. My phone screen is shared here. And just to start with, what we can do here, we can remove some of the boilerplate code. So within app, tabs, the index, so the index page or the index tab. And we don't really need all of this. So I changed parallax scroll view to safe area view, And these props are not really needed. So I remove them, remove this here. And I remove all of this as well. It's not really needed. Scroll down and I remove this. And then I change this tag to safe area view. And then now that is done, I can add a text from the React Native package. And I can just do hello world for now. So let's run our project. So here I go npx expo run android. Okay, so now with my project running, the text is not really visible. That's because it's black. Here we can add a style, so style, and I need to add a property to my styles variable. So let's add one here. So text, and then here I go font size of 18, comma, and let's add a color of white. And then let's scroll up and I assign it like so. So styles.text. And then our next step here should be to create a button. so that the user can select the model. So here I create a button like so. So button from the React Native package, and here we can set a title, choose model file, and then we would have to create an on-press prop. So basically what to do if the user clicks on this button, and to open the file picker window, we have a package called document picker. So I would have to install it. So I'll install it. I'll copy the command, create another shell, and then here I go and px, or basically I paste in my command and I enter. And then here we can create a function to handle this on press event. So here I can go const pick model file equals async. So it's an asynchronous function, arrow. And then here I go const result equals await document picker. Looks like I need to import it. So import star as document picker from expo document picker. And then anyways, .get document async. So then it accepts an argument called copy to cache. Sorry, it's an object first and then copy to cache. So here I'll set it to false. So I don't want to copy to cache for now. And then I can just console.log of the result. And then here I pass in my function. Whoops, looks like I have an error. And then let me just refresh my code here. And let's see if it works. Okay, so I got an error here. Maybe I would need to restart the Expo server. So I close the server, let me clear it, and then run the command again. Okay, so now I have my project running. Let's click on choose model file. And then I go to downloads. And then I go to LiteRT-LM. And then my model file, which was mobile actions.LiteRT-LM. Okay, so when I click on it, here we have the following output. Notice here that my URI is a content URI, not the absolute file path. So here we have a problem. Basically, according to the LiteRT-LM's documentation, so I need the Kotlin documentation, which is here. And here, if you scroll down, notice that the model path should not be a content URI. It basically should be the absolute path of my model. So to get around this, I would need to copy the model to cache. So I set it to true. And here the problem is that the cache is temporary. Basically, it can delete the files whenever it wants. So I would need to copy the model file from the cache to a persistent location. So to deal with files, there's a module called Expo file system. So let me copy this. So I'll close the server and I'll paste the command here. And then let me clear it. Let's run my server once again. Okay, so now with my server running, let's click on choose model file. And then I pick my model. So here this time, notice we have the absolute path to my LiteRT-LM file. Let's now work on moving the file from cache to the document directory. So here I go if result.assets. So if the assets exist, so if there is a valid file and result.assets.length is more than 0. Oops, let me put in a curly bracket. So here I can go const URI. So I get the URI result.assets. Oops, what is that? Result.assets. And then here I get the first or the only item within the assets array dot URI. And then I go const file equals file URI. So basically I take this file. Looks like I have a TypeScript error. Oh, okay, so it's new. Okay, so it's another problem. Let me just see if I've imported. No, okay, I've not imported it. So import file from React Native, not React Native, Expo dash file system. And then I'll scroll down here. And then I move the file. So file.move. To where do I move it? I move it to the document directory. New directory paths.document. So I fix my imports. Yeah, I add my import from Expo file system. And then for now, I can just do a console.log of the path of the newly moved file.uri. That's it. Let me refresh my code. And then now here with my project running. So I did a console.log of result and it's copying to cache. I'll just remove this one to stop confusing us. And I choose model file this time and I pick my model. And here, as you can see, the model has now been moved to the cache. So it's not in the cache directory, it's within the files directory. So now it's persistent. So now let's move on to one of the hard parts. Let's now actually work on our Android module. So according to the documentation here, we would need to install a few dependencies. We copy this line. Basically, I'll just copy the whole thing. And then I go to Android, build our Gradle, and then I scroll down. Let me paste it like so. So we don't need the JVM part. We only need the Android part. And then let me just close the server and let's run the server again. I basically want to see if we have no errors when we bring in this module. Okay, so my project seems to be building fine. So in the meantime, let's go to SRC, Java, Expo Lite module, and let's now work on our module here. So first of all, I'm going to build a function, a sync function. So my first function is going to be initializing the model. So initialize a sync and a curly bracket. So here it's going to accept an argument of the path to my model. So URI path of type string, arrow, and then here I go val engine config. So I configure my LLM engine config, and then the model path. The model path equals URI path, comma, the backend. So for today, we're going to be using the CPU backend, comma, and then the cache directory. So context.cache directory.absolute path. And context for now is undefined. So let's go up and private val context get equals require not null app context dot react context. So now let's define our engine. So val, actually let's make engine a global variable. Here I go private var, not val, var engine of type engine equals null. So for now it's going to be null, and I would need to fix my imports in a second, but anyways, I create my engine. So engine equals engine from the engine config. So basically, if you're a bit confused here on what these variables mean, you have the documentation here. So basically just follow all of this. But anyways, in engine dot initialize, the spelling is wrong, dot initialize, and then at the end I return a message. So here I go async function engine initialized with path $URI path. Let's now create a binding for it. So I would need to go to SRC, Expo Lite module, and then here let's create a declaration for that function. So initialize async. Was it called initialize async? Yeah. Let me copy this, paste it here. Basically, if I got anything wrong, and then URI path of type string. So the string or the path of my model, and it returns a promise of type string. So let me restart the server, clear, and then Expo run Android. In the meantime, while it's building, let's go to index.tsx and then use our module. Looks like something's wrong here. Oh yeah, obviously I forgot. We would need to import some stuff. So here I go import com.google.ai.edge. So engine config .LiteRT-LM.engine config, and then import. I'll just copy this, paste it here, engine, and I think we had backend as well. Yeah, we had backend, import, and then backend here. Yeah, I think that's it for now. So let's run the project once again, and while it's being built, let's go to index.tsx to run our function. Okay, great. So it's compiling. So here I go import Expo Lite module, and then here we can pass in the file URI to my function. So here I go const model initialize result equals await Expo Lite module dot initialize async file dot URI. Okay, and then at the end I can do a console.log model initialize result. So let's refresh. Let me make it a bit bigger and then choose model file, choose my file. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we got an error here. So here it says model file not found and then the path. So it took me a while to understand, but the problem is that the model accepts the absolute path. This means it does not want this part of the string. So we need to cut it out. Here I can go const file URI equals file.uri.replace and then file :// and replace it with nothing. So basically take out that part of the string, and then here I can pass in my file URI. Let me remove this. Maybe it will confuse us, and let's refresh the code once again. Okay, so choose my file, take my file, and let's see what happens. Okay, great. So as you can see, we now have a message. Our engine has now been initialized. So furthermore, for the sake of clarity, I want to display the model path here. So I'll create a state variable for it. So const model path set model path equals use state of type string, or it can be undefined. It looks like I need to fix my imports. Quick fix, import from React. And then here I can go set model path here. Set model path file URI. And let's tidy this up a bit. So I'll create a use effect. Use effect. So every time the model path changes, I can reinitialize my Expo Lite module. So here I go const initialize module, not module, engine. So it's an async function. So then if the model path exists, if it does exist, I go await, actually const file URI, not file URI. Let's just copy this and I paste it like so. So instead of file URI, it's model path. Let me just make it a bit bigger. Model path. And then obviously I'll do a console.log model path, not model path, model initialize result. So yeah. And then within my dependency array, I pass in model path. So let's fix my imports. So use effect needs an import. And then at the end, I go initialize engine. Let me just remove all of this. Basically the code that we don't need anymore. Here and here. Okay, so let's rerun our project. And this time let's try again. So mobile actions. Okay, so it's still initializing. That's great to see. So here we can create a style. Sorry, not a style, our text. So text style equals styles.text. Oops, not style sheet, styles.text. It needs to be conditionally rendered. So model path. So if the model path exists, I can copy my text like so. And then here I can go model exists, path, model path. Okay, so now here we have our path. And then I want to make it look a bit better. So I want a green color. So success text, extra C here, and then font size. Let's make it a bit bigger, 20, color of green. And let's scroll up. Style.success text. Okay, that's nice. Okay, so now with the UI part and some of the LLM part is now complete, let's now move on to the next step, interacting with the model. So I would need to create a function here that will allow me to send a message to the model. So within my Expo Lite module.kt file here, I'll create a function called async function, and then let's call it send message async. So let's look at the documentation here. So let's see where the model is being given a message. So it's being given a message here. Let's scroll down a bit and we have a synchronous example, and then we have an asynchronous example. And here, if we scroll down, we have a text snippet we can use for our conversation. So, but we need to use it within a coroutine. So I don't know much about coroutines. You can check out the documentation. But anyways, let's go back to our code. And to implement a coroutine within Kotlin, I have to go coroutine like so. So basically very standard, and then message of type string equals, not equals, an arrow. And then here we would need to initialize a conversation. So within the documentation here, there's a code snippet. Let's basically take some parts of it. So val conversation config equals conversation config. So parenthesis, and we just need this part. We don't need the system or the initial messages. So I'll copy this like so, paste it here. And yeah, this seems fine for now. And then I create a conversation. So val conversation equals engine dot create conversation from my conversation config. And then here I can go val full response equals string builder. So initialize a string builder. And then for my question, so val question equals conversation dot send message async. So send the message to the model, and the message is going to come from the parameter. And question is not a good name. Let's change it to model answer. And then here I go model answer dot collect bracket response arrow. And then here I go model, no, not model, for response dot append response. So let's break down what's happening here. Basically, what we're doing here is that we're initializing the conversation, and then we create a string builder. You can think of this as an empty string. And then in the next part, we send the model our message, so our query. And the thing is, when the model answers, it does not answer it in one go. It streams the answer. So while the answer is being streamed, I append the incoming words or the incoming tokens to my full response string. So anyways, now that I've gotten the model answer, I can close the conversation. So conversation.close. And then at the end, I return the model answer. So model answer, actually the full response I have to return. So the spelling of coroutine is wrong. It's coroutine. I return full response dot to string. So I convert the response to a string. And obviously I would need to fix my imports. So I scroll up, import, let's copy this import statement. And this time it's conversation config and import sampler config, not sample config, sampler config. And then I will also need to import coroutine. So let's add it around here. So import, it's an Expo module. So import expo.modules.kotlin.functions.coroutine. Now that I've written some Kotlin code, let's run the server again. And let's see if we have any errors. Okay, so no errors so far. Let's create the declarations for it within TypeScript. So send message async. It's better to just copy this to avoid typos. So it's send message async here, and then message of type string, and it returns a promise of type string. So now I want to execute this function. So here, what I can do here, I can create a text box for the user to write their message. So I can create a text input styles.input. Looks like I did not define it. So let's create it here. Input and height of 40. Let's give it a border color of gray. Let's give it a border width of 1 unit. Let's give it some margin as well, comma. And then let's use this text input. Looks like I need to add a placeholder. Placeholder, enter your message. And then the value is going to be the message. Looks like I did not define the message either. So let's do it a bit later. Placeholder, text color, and let's set it to gray. Looks like I have an error somewhere. Let's scroll down. Okay, I need a comma. Okay, so now my text input is coming up. And then here, to track the user's query, I would have to use a state. So const user message, set user message, set user message equals use state of string. And by default, it's going to be an empty string. So let's use these states on change. So what will happen when the value of this text box changes? So the parameter is text, arrow, set message, user message, text. Looks like I have a TypeScript error here. So it's not on change, it's on change text. Anyways, we set the value to user message. That's it. So we can create a button for submitting. The button title equals submit. And then we can do an onPress event. And let's create the onPress event. So the handler is going to be handle submit, which we're going to define in a bit. Here I create a self-closing tag. Obviously, we're going to have problems. So let's define the function. So here I go const handle submit equals arrow. So I get the response, so const response. And this time I want to run this function. So Expo Lite module, Expo Lite module dot send message async, send the message to the model. And here is going to be message. Sorry, not message, user message. Actually, I think it's better if we add the message as a parameter. And I paste it here. It's going to be of type string. And then for now, we can do a console.log of the response. Later on, we're going to display the model response within the app. But yeah, so handle submit. And within the parameter is user message. Okay, so now let me refresh my code. and let's run it. So basically first I can say hi. Whoops, looks like my text is black. So I scroll down. No, where was it? It was here. Color white. Okay, now it's white. How are you? And then I submit. Let's see what happens. Whoops, looks like we have an error. Let's see what the error is. So it's a null pointer exception. Okay, so a while later, it was a very stupid issue. I forgot to choose the model file. So I'll choose the model file like so. Okay, so now the model exists. Now let's submit the message and let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm getting these logs. It's a bit strange what's happening. And I found out the answer why. It's basically a promise. So send message async was an asynchronous function. So I add await here. And yeah, now it's async. Looks like VS Code added it for me. But anyways, let's refresh the code. And then I choose the model file once again. So let's write a message. Hi, how are you? Hopefully we get a response this time. So I submit. Oh, nice. So as you can see, my model answered. Let's display the message onto the app. So here I go const model answer, set model answer equals use state. It's either string or undefined, and yeah, that's fine. So let me make this a bit smaller. It's a bit hard to see. We can also add another state variable to track if the model is loading. Not the model, but the model answer is loading. So I go const is loading, set is loading equals use state. This time it's going to be a Boolean. And by default, it's going to be false. And then let's scroll down. Let's actually use these state variables. So first things first, when the user submits their message, I want this text box to be empty. So set message, set user message, sorry, let's set it to empty. And then set model answer to the response and set is loading to false. Actually, let's think about the order. First, I want the answer to come up first and set is loading to come up second. And then when everything's done, set the user message to blank. And when the user submits the message, I would want the set is loading state variable to be true. Okay, a lot of code written. Let me remove this. And now let's use the state variables. Here I want the model, sorry, not the model. I want the button to be disabled when the model answer is loading. So is loading. And then I can display the model answer. The model answer, so if the model answer exists, I created text of style from styles.text model answer, not model answer. I just displayed the model answer like so. And now let's refresh the app. Okay, so this time let's send a message. Hi, how are you? And then let's submit. Hopefully we get an answer somewhere. Whoops, looks like we have a problem. Oh yeah, obviously I have to choose the model file. And then let's submit the message. So here I go, hi, how are you? So I submit and let's see what the model answers. Great. So let's ask it something else. What is 2 plus 2? I submit. Let's see what happens. Okay, so now that I asked it the question, what is 2 plus 2? It repeated the answer back to me. So this brings us to the second part of this video. To fix this problem, we need tool support. So luckily, LiteRT-LM, this library also supports tools like so. So we're going to use these tools. So Expo Lite module, let's create a new file here. So within Lite module, create a new file. Let's call it toolset.kt. And let's go to the documentation. I'll just copy this. We can use Google's code. So let me copy and then paste. Let me make this smaller. And basically what's happening here, it's just declaring a bunch of tools with their parameters and returning the answer. So for example, for the first tool function, we have a function called getCurrentWeather, and it basically returns fake information. And here we can add some more code here. So for example, let's say if the user asks about Paris, so if city equals Paris, curly braces, so instead of these values, I can return another set of values. Let me just copy this and then paste it like so. So temperature should not be 25, it should be 18. Unit is unit, it's fine. And condition to cloudy. And then here we have another tool. So basically another function the model can run, which is basically returning the sum of a list of numbers. Let's now use these tools. To do so, I go to Expo Lite module.kt and within send message async, let's see where we have to use these tools. So let's scroll down and around here. So basically my tools should be passed within conversation config. Let's go back to our code here. So within conversation config, I add my tools equals list of, and then my tool class. So here in this case, it's called tool set. Looks like I need to rename this class. So tool set. Okay, so it looks like there's going to be a naming conflict. So I'm just going to set it to sample tool set, and let me just rename this file to sample tool set as well. Anyways, going to Expo Lite module. Here I go sample tool set. Okay, so this looks fine for now. And I would need to fix my imports. So here at the end, I go import sample tool set. So let me rerun the server because we wrote some Kotlin code, clear, and then you know the idea. Looks like we have some errors here. Let's see what's the problem. So unresolved reference tool set. Looks like I forgot to import it. Import com.google is better to just copy this. And it's tool set. Let's clear and then run the project once again. Okay, so now my project running. Let's ask it a few questions. So for example, get current weather. Let's say, how is the weather in Seoul? Then I submit. Let's see what happens. Okay, we have an error. Obviously, I forgot to choose the model file. Later on, we're going to fix it. So choose model file. I cannot submit it. Okay, so the submit button is disabled. Obviously, looks like I need to refresh my code. And here, let's choose the model file. So how is the weather in Paris? Submit. Let's see what it says. Okay, so the current weather in Paris is cloudy. Yes, it is cloudy. And the temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. That means that our tool function is working. Obviously, in the real world, in the real application, or in a real project, you're going to call a weather API. But anyways, let's ask it another question. So what is the sum of 2, 3, and 5? Submit. Let's see what happens. 2, 3, and 5 is 10. That's great. Let's ask it floating point numbers. What is the sum of 6.80 and 1.25? Submit. And yeah, we get the correct answer. That's really nice to see. Here I want to create another tool that opens an app for me. For example, I want my model to open my settings app. So let's create a function for this. So here I go tool. Let me give myself some space here, and then the description. So the description is going to be open the settings app. So the function name, so fun, open settings. So I don't really want any parameters, and it's going to return a unit. Now I'm not really well versed in Kotlin, but I think unit is kind of like void in TypeScript. But anyways, here I can do a try catch block, try catch e exception, and I can do a print line. So I can print failed to open settings, and I can pass in my message e.message. I'm not sure if we need this, but this was really useful for me for debugging. But here I can go val intent. So I create an intent to open the settings app, android.provider.settings.action settings, and then intent.set flags, intent. So I want to open the settings app, flag activity, new task. So open a new task, which is my settings app, and then I start the activity. So context.start activity, and then I pass in my intent. But before proceeding, we have a problem. The thing is, within this class, context is undefined. So what do we do here? So one thing I can do here is I can pass in this context as a constructor or within my constructor. So here I go context of type context, and then I use this variable. So I go private val context equals context, and then it should work. Now I need to pass in this context to sample toolset. So I go to Expo Lite module. Let's scroll down, and here I pass in my context. Let's now rerun my code. I clear it, and then px expo run android. Whoops, looks like I have a problem here. Let's see what's wrong. I think it's import errors. Yeah, unresolved references. So import android.content.intent, import android.content.content, not content, context. So let's clear this, and then I run it again. Looks like we have yet another error. Let's see what's wrong. unresolved reference set flag. Let's see if I did something wrong here. Okay, so it's not set flag, it's set flags. Hopefully my project runs again. Okay, so now it's running. Let's wait for the app to come up, or the new version of the app to come up. Okay, so I choose model file, take my model. Okay, so model exists. What is the sum of 2 and 4? Sorry, let's do 5. Okay, I submit. Let's see what we get. Okay, so far the previous tools were working. Let's try the new tool. Please open the settings app, exclamation mark, and then submit. Let's see what happens. That's amazing to see. This means that my model can now interact with my device. Maybe as a personal project, you can use other tools or build other tools to automate some stuff for you on your Android device. But anyways, let's now work on enhancing the app. Let's now work on to enhancing the app experience. So one thing I can do here is I can save the model's path to local storage. So for this, I would need a package. Let me clear this. And for the package here, I can go npx expo install async storage. So expo async, not expo async storage. We have the documentation here and I want to install it. So API. So here we have it. Let's copy this. I'll paste it like so. So here we can go npx expo install. And now let's wait for a bit. Okay, so now that my module has been installed, let's use it. So import async storage from React Native async storage. And whenever the model path changes, I can save it. So if the model path exists, here I can go await async storage dot set item and then the key. So model path, comma, model path like so. And then I want to check if the model path exists whenever the app is started. So here I can add another use effect. So the dependency area is going to be empty. So when the component is mounted, so const check stored data, it's an async function. And here we can go const data equals await async storage dot get item model path. So get the model path. If it does exist, I said model path like so. And then let's run this function. So check store data. And yeah, this looks fine for now. So we have an error. Let's see what the error is. Okay, that's completely fine. Let's rerun the server. Whoops, looks like we have a problem here. Let's see what's wrong. Okay, so async storage has a few issues. Okay, so a while later, I realized my issue. I did not complete the installation. Here they have this snippet. Let's just copy this line. I go back, Android, build.gradle. So yeah, build.gradle. So within our projects, here I can copy. So let's create a new line and here I can paste. So let's try rerunning this project once again. Hopefully it works. Okay, so it looks like my project is now running. Let's choose the model file like so, and it should be saved. Okay, so it's working. So let's try closing and reopening the app. So I close the app and then let's run LiteRT tutorial once again and let's see what happens. Great. So as you can see, async storage successfully saved the model path. Anyways, on a slight tangent here, phones are getting more expensive, so we would also need to optimize our app. So one thing we can do here is that whenever the app is closed, we can shut down the LLM engine. So here I'll create another function. Let me make this smaller. So async function actually doesn't need to be async. Let's just do function and let's call it close model. Actually, it's better to call it close engine. And then I simply go engine.close. So I just close the engine. So obviously now we need to create bindings for it. So source, Expo Lite module, close, oops, something's wrong. And then it's an empty function and it returns a void. So it does not return anything. Here within my use effect, I create a destructor. So return two parentheses, arrow, and then at the end, Expo Lite module, oops, dot close. So just close. I think we're going to have a problem because I did not rebuild my app. So I'll just close the server and then build the Android project once again. All right, so now the app has started. Let's add something. So what is the sum of numbers 4 and 5? Okay, so it's working fine. Let's refresh the app and see what happens. That's nice to see. It looks like the LLM engine closes itself because of the destructure, thereby avoiding memory leaks. So a few closing notes from me. The guys at Google released a Python notebook that allows you to export your fine-tuned FunctionGemma model to LiteRT-LM, and I did do this while preparing for this video. However, the problem was that my own model was not really working well. It kept on crashing and my app kept on closing. Another thing is that I also tried to enable GPU support, so I added these lines within Android manifest.xml, and I also tried using a config plugin, but for some reason my model was not responding well. So if you guys have any solution to this, please let me know within the comment section. So that's it for today. In this video, you guys learned about the LiteRT-LM library. Furthermore, you guys also learned how to use this library within React Native to run on-device inference or local inference. If you guys have any questions, let me know within the comment section below. I'm open to suggestions, opinions, or ideas. Till then, bye-bye.